I'd love to ask you, because you deal with, and you have a team underneath, a big team underneath you, but you deal with so many different business owners. So you deal with franchisors, and we're a unique bird. And then you have franchisees, and then you have independents, lots of independents, and you have independents that are very successful with multiple locations. What traits? Sorry, not necessarily skill sets, but traits. I always say that traits are kind of things you learned when you were pretty young, or they were God just put them in you. And when I'm hiring people, I always say you can't put in what God left out, right? Like I'm not going to change the 30-year-old. So if we talk about traits, not skills that they can learn, but traits, what traits have you seen a successful independent, a successful franchisee, whatever it may be? Are there 2 or 3 or 4 commonalities you're seeing?
Yeah, I think that probably I think it's really one. It's just um sort of every touch point that you have with your consumer, paying very close attention to it and making sure that, sort of your brand promise is hit through all of them. I think, going back to what we were talking about before with Soul Cycle and how those founders really poured everything into the actual experience that they felt was missing. I think that's you kind of have to look at how your consumer experiences the brand from the minute they land on your website, the minute they land on your social, to the minute they take their first class. All of those things you've got to be really intentional about. But that first starts with defining who you are,
Yeah,
and then sort of building from there.
yeah. I don't know what your experience has been, but mine has certainly been with me because I code. I've got this other company called ThriveMore Autopilot, and we work with a lot of different brands, all boutique fitness or wellness or recovery brands. And it's the one thing that I'm seeing is tenacity is critical. Like you just have to keep showing up. You can't lose if you don't quit. But there's also we're helping people with pre-launches before they've even opened. And if you're pre-launching your second location, you get it because you've been there, done that. You understand what is needed. But a lot of these first time entrepreneurs in this space, at least, and fitness wellness is a passion play. So it's not like we're in the trash business, which is a great business and super profitable, just not really very sexy, right? And people don't like going to it because they love trash. They're chasing the opportunity for financially. But so many people will want to open their own studio because they loved yoga or Pilates or boxing or whatever it was. And so they want to bring that to their community and make money doing it. But man, I see so many people, franchisees and independents, build a location under the auspice of, if I build it, they will come.
Mhm.
And I don't think there can be anything further than the truth, right? In today's market, like you can build it, but if you don't tell the world about it and keep telling them about it again and again and again and again and again, nobody's coming. Nobody's coming. And I'm curious what you've seen in your experiences with independents or franchisees around their first location and kind of expectations around that, what you're seeing. Because I want the people that are thinking about entrepreneurship to hear the real deal and decide for themselves. I always say we serve our audience by either inspiring them to go for it and jump, or scaring the hell out of them so that they don't and make a terrible decision in their life. And it's kind of binary, but we serve them either way. We serve the audience either way. So what have you know, what have you seen around that whole I'll build it and they'll come, and your history with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, going back to your first point about boutique fitness being a passion industry, there are certainly easier ways to make money. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, going just to answer the question about like for studio ownership, I think that there has to be a really focused effort on membership pre-sales. I think that is, something that maybe 10 years ago you didn't have to be as focused on. And now you certainly do. Getting the word out early, connecting with all the right people in the community. I would say kind of going back to even before you start your first studio, um, decide what level of support you need, and if it's a brand that you want to build yourself, or if you want to join a great, sort of proven network like a Rockbox and go in as a franchisee. That's sort of like decision one. Um, I would say that something that I think has really shifted over the last 10 years is this idea that certain franchisors have you know built or popularized, is that you could be an absent franchisee and have this great, boutique studio business. And that is so far from the truth. And
Not
I'm
true.
just so
Yep.
glad that we are beyond that and not, likely a lot of the people that were sold that dream either, have moved on or, have or are, like, really in the trenches
Reoriented.
now.
Yeah, reoriented,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I think so much of that is just, you do have to be in the studios to create that culture to, make sure that the experience is great. Um, we've invested a lot in our own data and sharing insights of Mariana Tech, the wider customer base, to identify trends across the industry. And something that I think is so fascinating is that if you get someone in the door, they take their first class, there's only 50% chance that they'll come back.
Wow.
And of that 50%, those that make it to their fifth class have an 80% chance of staying with you.
Mm,
And so if there's nothing, there's no other, sort of better data point to illustrate that like experience and delivering a great experience is actually what creates long-term customers.
yeah.
Sounds obvious, but I think that that data point really helps illustrate that.
No, for sure. And you're starting to create that habit, and once it becomes a habit, it's anchored, and you don't have to, you're not dragging them. Yeah. Um, yeah, I actually know a business owner that, did not attend his own grand opening,
Oof.
and I just thought, "I can tell you how this movie's gonna end,"
Yeah.
and it did. It ended the exact way I thought it would end, but you're right, it doesn't I don't I've owned 4 brick and mortars on my own, and I didn't have to. Now, I was there a lot because I was a franchisor too, so I really want to understand the business, but we just found if you really put in a stupid amount of effort, the first 6 to 12 months, and you build your team, you train your team, and you have these, you can expect what you inspect, and you start to get that culture, you can then pull away. You don't have to be so physically present if you have a good GM, a competent GM. But man, that whole absentee, we don't even say that. In fact, I tell everybody, we had another brand that we sold, and I still have Rockbox, and both discovery days, I would always say, this is going to be harder than you think it's going to be. Like, hear what I'm saying, because this sounds sexy and fun and great and really cool, and it is. And it's going to be harder than you think. And if you go into it feeling that way and accepting that, it won't be so bad because you expected it. But, there's no such thing as an absentee business, even a laundromat. There's leaks and there's dryer vents that get clogged and all, so there's no such thing as an absentee business. You have to put some effort into a business, and a brick and mortar physical location with a service, probably a little bit more effort, than an average business.